Good Monday morning. It's July 14th. You found us here on 13 News Now Plus at the Weather Desk, where we tackle today's top weather headlines. And there is, as there always seems to be anymore, there's a lot to cover today on the Weather Desk. Seems like there have been big weather stories from all across the country. And this is where we're going to start with our weekend weather wrap up. More flooding concerns. We actually have a weather impact alert for us here in Hampton Roads. I'll explain what that means. As we take a look ahead, we're also going to check out more heat out west, western U.S. wildfire updates. We had a really wild firenado caught on video from Utah. We had, again, a couple areas in northern Arizona around the Grand Canyon, the North Rim, and some areas just off to the north of the Grand Canyon with wildfires burning. We'll give you an update on that. We'll check in on the drought monitor. We also have a tropical update, and there may be something brewing that's going to cross Florida and head into the Gulf. Some more unsettled weather expected through this week for the mid-Atlantic, and I'll have the extended outlook looking out over the next couple of weeks. Is there any relief in sight? It seems like every single afternoon we have chances for isolated to scattered showers and storms. It's a pretty typical summertime pattern, but there's been so much moisture with the warmer atmosphere. It's got a capacity to carry a lot of humidity, and that's been wrung out with flooding rains across parts of the region over the past several weeks. We've had numerous occasions where that has developed. So we're going to talk about all of these things. We're going to start off, though, with our weather impact alert. And again, 13 News Now serves Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina. We appreciate you tuning into the Weather Desk wherever you are across the region, across the country, or across the globe. We actually have international viewership here on 13 News Now Plus as we stream this out. But we do serve Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina. And I want to start off talking just very quickly about the rain that is going to fall over some ground that's already saturated. Now, the areas that saw a lot of rain over the weekend, mainly inland areas and farther to the west and north, that sets the stage for additional potential flooding later today and tonight. For other areas in the metro where we didn't get as much rain over the weekend, the ground can take a little bit, but we've got a lot of urban areas with a lot of asphalt and pavement where if you get heavy rain over that area, you're still going to have issues with runoff. That's going to be the case during the mid-afternoon, early mid-afternoon, and then into the evening. Better chances for those flooding rains farther inland and off to the northwest. So this is what we're looking at: heavy rain and possible flooding. Now you can see the severe weather is more likely off to the north and west. And one of the things we do here on the Weather Desk, we don't just focus on Hampton Roads in Northeast North Carolina. What we do is we take a look nationally. So we will get into the national severe weather outlook here a little later in this half hour. But as we start things off, I want our local viewers to know that we are not outlooked for severe weather right here across the immediate metro area. There could be some heavy downpours, and it's also important to note a storm doesn't have to be severe to be really dangerous. Anytime you've got lightning, you've got that electricity shooting around in the atmosphere, there is the potential for people to get hurt. There could be fires started if lightning strikes the wrong thing. And of course, there have been fatalities, numerous fatalities with non-severe storms. So while the severe weather threat's off to the northwest, we still want folks to be mindful that we're going to see some thunderstorms potentially across parts of the area. The flood watch is also out to the west along I-95 and I-85, the Richmond area and Petersburg areas basically northwest of Williamsburg up towards Tappahannock, northern Virginia, also under this flood watch. Hampton Roads is not. But if you look at the Weather Prediction Center's outlook, it does carry that slight risk or level 2 threat for excessive rainfall all the way through Norfolk and Portsmouth, the western branch section of Chesapeake. Suffolk is under it. Areas out to the west, Isle of Wight, Southampton, Franklin. As I mentioned, the peninsula, Hampton, Newport News, Poquoson, York, Williamsburg, James City County, areas off to the north and west. The Middle Peninsula, Gloucester, Matthews, some of the counties up that way, Middlesex, and then up into the northern neck as well. Eastern Shore also included under that level 2 threat. Across the south side, Chesapeake, most of Chesapeake, And all of Virginia Beach really under a level 1 threat. But just because you're not under level 2, that doesn't mean you drop your guard. In fact, the models kind of project a heavier cell kind of in this area earlier afternoon that drifts to the southeast, or to the southwest rather, as we go by late afternoon. And then that next round of heavier rain potentially from like Petersburg, Richmond, back across the Middle Peninsula. So it's kind of an interesting setup. Bottom line is stay aware. Even down into North Carolina, north of the Albemarle, you have that level 1 threat. Now we're going to take a look nationally, and the satellite and the radar images, some really rough news down across Texas. They have the potential for more severe weather and potential flooding, and I'm going to dive into that in just a moment. But we're going to start off as we are tracking the potential for more heavy rain across the country from New York to Florida and to Texas. Heavy rain in Texas has forced first responders in Kerr County to suspend their search for people still missing after the deadly flooding on July 4th. So far, there are at least 129 confirmed deaths. That includes 36 children. 166 people are still considered missing. ABC's Andrew Dimbert brings us up to speed with the recovery efforts.
Overnight dangerous weather impacting millions across the country. In central Texas, the search for flood victims temporarily halted as the area gets hit with another round of storms.
The rain really coming down here in Kerr County. Items now washing down the Guadalupe River, including these piles of debris.
The death toll from July 4th's catastrophic flooding now reaching at least 132. Residents in Kerrville, one of the city's hardest hit, were warned to move to higher ground. The Lampasas River rising more than 30 feet in just 4 hours. Crews rescuing dozens of people. Nearby, a mandatory evacuation order was issued for anyone living south of the San Saba River. Officials say it's rising higher and faster than on July 4th. On the East Coast, a flash flood warning has been issued for 2 New York counties thanks to more than 4 inches of rain and counting. And in Florida, a lightning strike caught on camera. 3 people in St. Augustine struck as people on the beach scrambled to get to safety.
Boom, we heard this big shock.
It felt scary close up. It was loud.
I was crying so hard.
An elderly man was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. And in the West, lightning is to blame for starting 2 fires rapidly growing in the Grand Canyon. The so-called Dragon Bravo fire destroying between 50 and 80 structures, including the Grand Canyon Lodge, a National Historic Landmark. Farther north, the White Sage fire destroying more than 40,000 acres. Both fires are currently 0% contained. The flames threatening nearby businesses, including Jacob Lake Inn. Melinda Marshall's family has been running the lodge for more than 100 years. She rushed to evacuate guests and collect as many valuables as possible.
The hardest part really was just deciding what to bring with us. You're 102 years old. Fire just changes so quickly that you just don't know, you just kind of have to be prepared for what's going to happen.
Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
All right, we're going to take a closer look at some of the wildfires coming up, but I wanted to spend some time here back in Texas and focusing on some of the wet weather they are dealing with this morning. We mentioned some of the recovery efforts halted because there is the additional concern and fear that we could have some additional flooding here. Here's Kerrville. This was the town in Texas that was hit so hard. And look at the steady rains here that have been moving along. We can take this full. What I'm going to do is kind of stop this for a second, just kind of pause it and show you some of that heavy rain that has been falling just out to the west of Kerrville. As I jog this along, you can see that steady rain really adding up. And there are issues right now with flood advisories and flood warnings. Now, specifically for Kerr County, there is a flood advisory until 11 o'clock this morning. Okay, as we take a look down just next to Kerr County, off to the north there in Kimball County, and that's where you see Junction. You can see, and I'll go ahead and put the arrow on the screen so you can see this area up in here under flood advisory through noon. These are noon Eastern time, so take an hour off as they're in Central. All right, there are numerous other flood warnings that are out across the region, and I wanted to just take a moment to show you these as well. So as we take a look, this area just off to the west and to the southwest of Kerr County. This is for the counties of Bandera, parts of Kerr, Real and Uvalde counties. there is a flash flood warning with the threat being considerable. This was the problem that we had. You know, it's one thing to issue a flood warning, but when the water's coming up quickly and there's a great concern that there could be some, considerable flooding or considerable threat to life and property, they issue these special tags. So we're continuing to watch that. In addition to that one, we have another one here very close. This is Bandera and Uvalde. Again, considered considerable damage, considerable threat of damage and threat to life in those areas there. This is all just to the south and southwest of Kerrville. So we will continue to watch all of this and keep you updated. Again, a lot of concern for that area hit so hard, and that is why they've gone ahead and suspended the recovery efforts while they're allowing those waters to come up and recede again. And you think about it, if you're in the process, maybe you're going through a debris pile and there's, pieces of a house or a structure or whatever, and you're trying to recover some of that, and then you're thinking another round of high waters coming through, that can really just be shattering to you. You think about the emotional toll as folks are still trying to recover lost loved ones and then property and other things in that area. So really, again, there are some recovery efforts. I know our parent television group, Tegna, has put together an effort to raise money for those victims down in Texas. We have numerous properties down across Texas, and there are some wonderful organizations that are making efforts to raise money in support of those flood victims. We're going to take a look here at what's going on with the drought monitor. You can see parts of South Texas still with some areas with extreme to exceptional drought. That's a little bit south of those areas we were just kind of identifying, but that dry weather extends out across southern parts of Arizona and New Mexico. And I want to go ahead and take this again full so we can take a little closer look. Some of those areas with the very dry conditions extending back across extreme drought, southern Arizona and into New Mexico. Northern sections of Arizona here, they are not under extreme, but they do have moderate drought and in some cases severe drought. Now we're talking about areas up around the Grand Canyon. This severe drought extends up into Utah, and we're going to focus on some wildfire danger that they've had there. As we take a look, though, the driest conditions across the southern tier. As you look to the north, there's also some extreme drought back across portions of Idaho and into western Montana. Now, back across the eastern United States, we're in much better shape. Again, we've had so much rain. We talk about the flood potential, but we do need to continue to watch all of this very, very carefully. All right, we're going to switch our attention to the wildfires, and specifically as we zoom in across northern portions of Arizona, we've got a couple of wildfires here that we've been taking a very close look at. Let's take that closer look at the wildfires at the Grand Canyon. Crews there continuing to battle, and look at the flames there. Those crews are working to contain two. They're called, one is called the Dragon Bravo fire, and then the other one is the White Sage fire. We know that one of them was started by lightning on July 4th. Since then, the fast-moving flames have destroyed dozens of structures along the north rim of the Grand Canyon, including the visitor center and a gas station, a wastewater treatment plant, and employee housing. Fortunately, no injuries have been reported, but the emergency has forced park officials to close access to the area for the season. Take a look at that. All right, so those are the fires in Arizona. Again, this one near the north rim, the White Sage fire a little farther to the north. As we take a look across southern Utah, there's been a lot of fire action there as well. You see, we're going to get into the heat alerts in a moment, but before we do that, let's take you to Utah, where firefighters are also working to contain the Deer Creek fire in LaSalle, just south of Moab. That's in Red Rock country. Those flames are so intense, they created this fire world, also sometimes referred to as a firenado. Fire whirls are rotating columns of air that are induced by the intense heat from the flames interacting with the cooler air that's surrounding it. So you get that warm air rapidly rising and a little bit of rotation, and it can really take off. They can range in size from just a few yards up to more than 1.5 miles wide. Firenados are different from regular tornadoes since their spin comes from surface winds and heat-induced lifting rather than being a part of a supercell. So a lot of times we'll track these developing storm systems and you look into a certain part of a supercell, you can see up and down motion, and you can get, areas that you would anticipate maybe on the southwest flank of a supercell, you'd expect tornadoes. In this case, you just have all that heat rising up, some cooler surrounding atmosphere kind of sinking, you get a little bit of rotation, and that fire will continue to produce the energy and some of that lift for that vortex that you just saw. Pretty wild to check that out. All right, we're taking a look again at the heat alerts, and you can see back across the Grand Canyon, they are dealing with a lot of heat. Off to the north of that, there are heat advisories. And again, we still have elevated fire danger for some of these areas as well. When we take a look at the fire danger, you can see it's greatest back up into Washington State, but there are advisories out and restricted burning across parts of Idaho into Nevada and again, Utah. Now, we just took a look at that wildfire and that firenado there in southern Utah, and you see all that smoke going up. Okay, that's wildfires and volcanic eruptions spewing all of that ash and some of the other debris up into the atmosphere. Those can be natural sources of acid rain, and you've probably heard of acid rain. Those things can sometimes contribute, but there are a lot of other things and a lot of man-made things that contribute to acid rain as well. So you might be wondering, okay, what exactly is acid rain and what causes it? Meteorologist Hunter Forst is back to explain.
Acid rain, we've all heard of it, but what is it? Well, it forms when sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides, mainly from burning coal, oil, and gas, are released into the air. These gases mix with water vapor and turn into sulfuric and nitric acid, which then falls to Earth when it rains. Normal rain has a pH level of around 5.6, which is actually slightly acidic. But acid rain has a pH level between 4.2 and 4.4. It makes soil and water more acidic, harming plants, animals, and even eroding stone buildings and statues. In fact, acid rain was a major issue in the 1970s and 1980s in North America and Europe, damaging lakes, forests, and cities. But luckily for humans, walking or even swimming in a lake affected by acid rain is no more dangerous to humans than being in a normal rain or swimming in a non-acidic lake. But the pollutants that cause it can contribute to respiratory problems like asthma and bronchitis. But there is good news. Thanks to strong environmental laws like the U.S. Clean Air Act amendments of 1990, acid rain has declined significantly in many regions. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Hunter Forst.
All right, Hunter, always enjoy hearing from him and some more insights to acid rain. Right now, we're going to get into the tropics and take a look at what's happening out in the tropics. Here were the outlooks. If you hadn't seen them already or haven't really heard, we've talked about it a little bit here on the weather desk, but I want to put up the numbers one more time. NOAA anticipates 13 to 19 named storms. Colorado State University, and they have excellent hurricane season forecasters. They've been doing it for a long time. They're going with 16 named storms as a number. 14 is average. Last year we had 18. Hurricanes 6 to 10, 8 is the projection by CSU, and we average 7. Last year there were 11. And then major hurricanes 3 to 5, and that's pretty close to average. So what's going on out there right now? Well, we have a cluster of storms just north of the Bahamas. Some of that starting to reach some of the northern islands there. You can see folks in Florida paying super close attention to this because the Hurricane Center believes some of these areas producing these heavy tropical rains now starting to push down towards Freeport and Sweeting Cay, back over to Marsh Harbor. Some of this stuff may eventually get better organized and then move across Florida. Now, regardless of whether it gets organized here in the next day or so, there's only a 10% chance for that. It's going to produce some of this tropical moisture moving across Florida, likely some significant rain down across Florida. So it looks like this is going to move this way. Once it gets into the northern Gulf, though, over the next, say, 3 to 7 days, there is a 30% chance for development here. So folks all along the Gulf Coast from Tampa on up through the Big Bend. You get over to Pensacola, Mobile, Jackson, some of these areas, they're all going to be watching even these inland areas for some of this moisture to potentially spread up into these areas along the coast here. You can see anywhere from Gulf Shores and back down through New Orleans, and then areas along kind of those marshy areas down along the Louisiana coast. They're all going to be needing to watch this with that heavier rain potentially if something were to develop spreading into this region. So let's take a look at kind of one of the outlooks here. This is from the GFS. You can see how it tracks kind of across Florida and back into the Gulf. Some unsettled weather here, and this is not specifically like the hurricane forecast, but this is just taking a look at spin in the atmosphere, what we call relative vorticity. Kind of comes up this way, not going too crazy with the GFS, but you'll notice how some of this stuff kind of lingers around a little bit near the Louisiana coast. It's just an area that we will continue to watch over the coming week or so, and we'll let you know. Aside from that, the Gulf is quiet. The Caribbean pretty quiet as well. Looking across the main development region here across the Atlantic, there are some clusters of showers and storms, but nothing that's showing much sign of development. We'll keep an eye to some of these areas, but there's nothing that looks too scary right now. In the Eastern Pacific, again, things looking a little bit quieter. That's nice because it was so active early in the season. Right now, no additional tropical activity is expected in those other regions. The one exception to that is that area in the northern Gulf with that 30% chance. But as for the rest of the basin, it's not looking too bad right now. All right, as we take a look at the peak of the season coming up September 10th, again, we've rolled through early July, now into mid-July, and we're going to see that activity picking up as we get into August and September, very likely as we get into the peak of the season. All right, our temperatures over the past week have been really warm. You know, Tuesday and Wednesday it was super hot. It really hasn't been that bad, though, over the last 3-4 days. These temperatures at or a little bit below average. We have seen several times, though, these opportunities for afternoon storms to pop up. And when we look ahead over the next 7 days, we've got chances for isolated to scattered showers and storms each day as we go through Wednesday and into Thursday and Friday, still isolated to maybe scattered showers and storms. So this pattern is very persistent. Saturday, we could see a little more activity. Hopefully, it'll be a little drier on Sunday. But we do have these rain chances each and every afternoon. So this pattern is very persistent. That's what I was talking about earlier. Is there any break? Looking out over the next 8 to 14 days, you can see, and this takes us through the end of July, we're still anticipating wetter than normal conditions for much of the eastern U.S. It'll be drier across parts of the West and hopefully drier down across Texas. They're ready for a break right now as they recover from the flooding in south central Texas. But remember, a little farther south, they could actually use a little bit of rain down this way as they've been very dry down along the Mexican border. As you can see, the temperature outlook also calling for above normal temperatures for so much of the country. Really, the only place with slightly below normal temperatures up around the arrowhead of Minnesota, so the north central U.S., just about it. Severe weather outlook for today, marginal level 1, not too bad here, but we'll be watching for a few stronger storms here in the eastern U.S., a little bit around the boot heel into western parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, back across parts of Montana, the Dakotas, some unsettled weather there. Wind, the primary concern. No great tornadic additional threats across the country today. And hail may also develop up in the north where it's a little bit cooler. Now, tomorrow there's a level 2 risk, slight risk from South Dakota into Nebraska. And for that area, again, wind, the primary threat, maybe some hail there. And again, it's one of those things where could there be a spin-up tornado? Yeah, there might be somewhere up there as well for tomorrow, but the primary threats here will be the stronger winds and the larger hail potentially. All right, the Futurecast again shows that unsettled weather across parts of the region here in the eastern U.S. You see the progression of several storms as we go out over the coming days. Temperatures today warming up now, and with the Thompson Creek Window Company, you're starting to see more cloud cover, and that's starting to billow up. Dew points at 76, it's 83. It's feeling like it's already in the upper 80s to low 90s across parts of the region. There will be chances for stray showers or storms if you're headed to the beaches. Rip current threat is low, the UV index very high. It's partly sunny, but we do have that chance for showers and storms later on. And you need to be mindful of that if you're headed out on the water. We want to keep our boaters safe out there, so do check with the 13 News Now mobile app, access the radars, and get a good look at the marine forecast before heading out, because I do think around some of the areas of wet weather that could develop, you'd have much gustier conditions. All right, looks like a little return down there around Back Bay, maybe a little cell there over southern Virginia Beach. I do expect more development here as we get into the early afternoon, and those downpours could be locally heavy. They kind of drift to the southwest. Additional showers or storms will be possible later this evening with heavier rain off to the north and west. As we continue to go forward, you're going to see more chances again tomorrow afternoon, and pretty much each afternoon, as I mentioned, we'll see those chances. Where we do get some of the heavier downpours, 1 to 2 inches of rain possible. We could see higher amounts off to the north, and locally higher amounts not out of the question. You take a look over the next 48 hours, the GFS, the global forecast system, over 2 inches of rain for Norfolk. The graph model, which I just showed you, about 1.25 inches at Norfolk International. The NAM, the Canadian, the Euro, all going with lower amounts for Norfolk. There will be chances for stray showers and storms, though. Heavy downpours, that's a concern across the region. Up in the peninsula, upper 80s to near 90, mid to upper 80s for the middle peninsula, a little cooler to the eastern shore. Outer Banks, mid 80s, pretty good beach day there at the Outer Banks. And you can see we do have that chance for storms farther inland across North Carolina. Tonight's low down around 74. Tomorrow we're back up close to 90. Partly sunny, scattered afternoon storms. Beyond that, still chances for wet weather Wednesday and Thursday. It becomes more isolated as we head into Friday and Saturday, Sunday as well. So this pattern, it just keeps on keeping on. Let me remind you, with that threat for some heavier downpours and stronger storms across the region, check in with our mobile app. You can download it right here, scan that QR code, and check out the 13 News Now mobile app. Lots of great information, always at your fingertips. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us here on the Weather Desk. We will be here every single Monday through Friday to bring you more of the nation and the world's top weather headlines. We do a lot of international stories as well, and we focus on Hampton Roads weather here, serving Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina. I hope you enjoyed today's edition. I'm going to be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. with another look from the Weather Desk. Have a great day.